what kind of video is this that you're sending? He said, oh, it's the family group. And I mean, what kind of family is that sending this kind of stuff? And I mean, that's paedophilia. I said, that's a young girl. I said, if, this video, police get a hold of this, you could be done for paedophilia. It's an underage girl having sex and you're sending it round.
Children crying, saying, give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright.
Hi beautiful people, welcome back to Denise's Island Dream, and if you're watching for the first time, welcome and thanks for joining me. So a big welcome and thank you to all the new subscribers. Yes, so on this channel, Denise's Island Dream, I share about my journey here to Jamaica and also my spiritual journey. We're all on a spiritual journey. It's just that not all of us are conscious of it. So yes, I became conscious. Well, in 1999, I had a call on my life. I've done another video on that, and thought I was on a spiritual path and thought I was aware, but it wasn't until 2020. So really, I was a Christian since 1999 and became more spiritually aware and conscious in 2020. So what God's laid on my heart is to share my life story and moving to Jamaica. I can't separate the spiritual from the natural, so it's as life unfolds, and also just to give some insights and of where I'm coming from, my life experiences. It has been very colourful, very challenging. At times it's like I can't go on. It doesn't feel like I can go on. But whether we know it or not, God is ever present with us. And in those moments, God has put his name on all of our lips. So when we say, oh my God, or Jesus Christ, because those are the words that tend to come out of our mouths when we're in, struggling times, let me say. And God shows up. God only needs to hear his name and he's there. Because God can't go against our will. So if we don't call on God, he's always there. Always there. But if we don't call, then basically we just get on with life. So I'm learning to call on God. I'm learning to call on Jesus. I'm learning to call on angels, the divine realm, for help and assistance. And I've been doing that. Well, I started doing it more and more. You can say that I started to wake up in 2020. I'd been a Christian since 1999, but that was when my conscious path and my consciousness was awakened. I became more aware, so I don't just do things ad hoc now. It's intentional. I've learned how to listen to God, follow the guidance of God. I'm fully surrendered. I've said, God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. Wherever you want me to go, I'll go. Whatever you want me to say, I'll say. And, sometimes I wonder, it feels like a divine setup in a good way. Because I make these promises to God, and then when God says, I want you to share your life experiences, and it's like the human side of me, I can't share that. But I know the spiritual side of me is saying, and the spiritual side goes against all logic. So if I begin to think from the monkey mind, I wouldn't do a lot of things or say a lot of things that I do say or do. But when I tune into my heart, and that's where God lives, that's where the Holy Spirit is, when I go in, and that's what Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within us, then I hear God and I just follow God's guidance. And like I said, my logical mind, it doesn't make sense. And I'm sometimes fighting that. But I know in my heart, it's what God wants me to do, because what I've learned as well is when we suppress things, it's doing us harm within, brings on anxiety, depression, sicknesses, pain. There's all sorts of things that goes on at a cellular level. But what I'm finding is, and some of the difficult things that I've shared even in recent videos, hasn't been easy for me, but it's been, God has been saying it for a while, and I'm taking deep breaths and thinking, God, I can't, but I know deep within my soul, I have to bring this to the surface so as healing can begin to take place. And it's what sets you free. And as long as, and this is what God has said to me, speak your truth at all costs. Speak your truth, because it's only the truth that's going to set you free. So today I'm going to talk about, because I know a lot of people are in narcissists, with narcissist partners, and are probably not aware. So it's just in sharing my story, some things you may be able to relate to, some things will resonate, some things won't. If it doesn't, leave it. If it resonates and you feel that God's actually, speaking to me because you're in a toxic relationship, and sometimes, it's difficult to leave toxic relationships, but none of us should have to go through that, and none of us should have to put up with it. So as difficult as it may be, there's a better place for everybody. There's a higher version of each and every one of us. And we keep ourselves on, say, a lower vibration when we're stuck in toxic relationships with narcissists who are dictating to our lives. And you're really not free, because I wasn't free for a long time. Yes, so I'm talking today about sex with the narcissist and jealousy. Now, this isn't suitable for kids, so if you've got children in the room, you might want to pause and send them out. And, if you get offended with sex, and I mean, at the end of the day, we're all here as a result of sex. So, it's been a taboo subject in many households, but hey ho, it's a big part of, it's why we exist. Without sex, we wouldn't be here. As many of you know, I was in the church for 20 years. Now, 10 years, my first 10 years, I I left the man that I was with when I had the call on my life. And that was it. I said, no more men for me until I'm married. But, you know, going through life as a Christian, you know, yeah, I fell. I mean, I went 10 years without having a partner, having anybody, without having sex. 10 years. And then I did get involved with somebody that was in the church. He was actually a married man. And I felt so bad about it that, you know, I was supposed to have been going on a mission trip. Honestly, I went to the altar and I confessed and said to the pastor and his wife, you know, I can't go on this mission trip because, you know, I ended up having sex with, you know, this churchgoer. Anyway, I got it off my chest, basically. I was feeling really, really bad. So that wasn't really a proper relationship. So I kept myself and met, you know, obviously the man I married. And although I said to him, look, no sex before marriage, you know, I came to Jamaica a couple of times. We did. It did happen. And the thing is, you know, when your sexual nature is awakened, you know, we're not made of wood or stone. And, you know, it was just hard to control that. You know, in Jamaica, on holiday, you meet this man, fall in love with him. And we did. So at that time, vibrationally, we were a match. Sexually, we were a match. I mean, I'd gone, by then it was 12 years. So, you know, 10 years, you could say that 2 years as well. But I'd gone a mighty long time without sex. And before that, yeah, I did have a high sex drive. And so with narcissists, and I'm not saying that everybody that has a high sex drive is a narcissist. But from experience and from other people's videos, you know, other people's experiences, they do have an unusually high sex drive to the point of it being extremely inappropriate. So the telltale signs for me, when I look back, but you know, I was believing everything that he said to me, really, really trusting him. And, you know, trusting him to the point I turned fool. I was, you know, things are glaringly obvious, but no, in denial. That's what it was. Yeah. Yeah, so before I talk about the signs that I've now put together in my mind and think, oh God, it was there, hidden in plain sight. You know, I think a lot of narcissists have probably gone through some sort of childhood trauma. I mean, there's things that he did tell me, which now I think, oh wow, I'm not going to go into it. But there was definitely some childhood trauma, things that wasn't appropriate for a child of the age that he told me he was at to have gone through. So, you know, that is there. So, you know, sometimes people will talk about certain things that they've gone through in their childhood. Sometimes they may just suppress it. But it's going to come out some way and somehow. So, yeah, so I noticed, like every time, like friends or family came to visit, he would disappear, because I would be thinking, he was with me all the time, really, apart from being at work. So there's no way, this is how clever they are. And it's like, for me, how could certain things have happened, or how did I not see? But they're clever in covering their tracks. But one thing I've noticed looking back, he would do disappearing acts whenever friends come to visit. He would use the excuse, because it's true, he doesn't sleep at night. And it's like, oh, I'm a bit tired now and I've just got to get to, sleep when I can. So he'd disappear knowing full well I'm going to be hours on end with my family. And so he knows he's not going to get any disturbances. So there was the disappearing acts. There was there was a time when I went and sat by him or something on the settee, and then he was having a conversation with somebody online. And, when I questioned him about it, took his phone, I didn't go into his phone or anything like that. In fact, I knew his, the code, his password to get into his phone, and he would just leave his phone there. So it's like he would always talk about his previous relationships and about one particular woman that was so jealous over him. A narcissist loved that attention of jealousy. And she was so jealous, like he had to leave her. But since coming to Jamaica's really been an eye-opener for me, because I'm told that this particular woman that he couldn't stand because she was so jealous actually caught him in bed with somebody in the act, and he carried on doing his business, and then he had the nerve to curse her. He's on the phone to this woman. It was a young girl, actually. That's another tell sign. This is a big man and young girls. So I said, what are you doing? Oh, he was basically telling me that this girl that he was talking to, it wasn't somebody for him. He's trying to find a partner for his cousin who's in Jamaica. So that's what it is. So I said, well, why are you sending photos of you? Why are you not sending photos of him to her? But he just allowed me to, get rid of, stop that conversation, basically. But he was loving it. He was absolutely loving it. So, and then he would always, somehow, vulnerable women would gravitate towards him. He'd say, oh, they always end up, I always end up having to help them. So there was this one woman, and she actually ended up coming to church. But before that, he would tell me about, so he'd say it, tell me about the woman. But, that he'd met the daughter through work, and that they needed help or whatever. So she started coming to church, but I was never comfortable about it, about how involved he wanted to be to help her. So, in fact, I had a dream, and in the dream, this woman was in the bed with us, but she was in the middle of us. So I know God was telling me something, but he would be putting it down to jealousy. You're too jealous. Why we can't take jealous woman? And this, that, and the other. So, you know, I try and sort of put it to one side, you know, what happened to you? You're not trusting me. Me and your husband, me nah do nothing, and this, that, and the other. So, you know, that kind of defensiveness, reassurance that nothing's going on. And Denise believed him. I believed him, even though the signs were there. So then this one day, he sends me a video. And because he always sends things around. And when I press on the video, it's pornography. It's a pornographic video of a young girl having sex with a big man. In fact, there was two men there. I said to him, what kind of video is this that you're sending? He said, oh, it's the family group. And I went, what kind of family is that sending this kind of stuff? And I went, that's paedophilia. I said, it's a young girl. I said, if, you know, this video, police get hold of this, you could be done for paedophilia. It's an underage girl having sex and you're sending it round. Mind who you're sending these things to. And then he would tell me that, oh, certain people were sending him videos of men having sex. You know, what kind of thing that they're sending me. So I weren't connecting the dots. It was all out there. It was actually him. Nothing to do with anybody else. It was him. So when we get to Jamaica, he takes a liking to the neighbour. And he's inviting her to go to beach, inviting her for this, that and the other, inviting her to come over to, you know, help him select music. You know, there's a nurse that was living down the road. If I'm not in the car, he would pick her up. When I'm in the car, because he'd actually said, oh, she might feel away because he's driven past her basically. And he said, oh, I usually pick her up. And I went, well, why don't you pick her up now and drop her off? He goes, oh no. And he went, oh, she probably feels away because I've not picked her up. And I'm thinking like, well, why should she feel away? So, you know, and then, you know, his nephew's wife, I really didn't think anything of that. He was always insisting on taking, you know, dropping her to school anywhere she needed to go. He would take her. I noticed with her though that she would always sit in the back behind him. And, you know, but I didn't know what was going on at the time. But anyway, God starts to deal with me about jealousy because things got heated and, you know, there'd be arguments and stuff. So God said, deal with the jealousy. And when God tells us to deal with something, it's like the heat turns up. It's like the challenge now comes. So how do you deal with jealousy? Well, exposed to situations that would make you or make me be jealous. So, yeah, he seemed to, you know, start to make certain comments to the neighbour, wanting to go over there. And there was just so many other things. He would start to make different comments about women on the beach, and this one shouldn't be on the beach because their body's not right, and all sorts of things. So, you know, he would just start making comments. Because when I said to him, I actually said to him, oh, God says, I said, you'll be pleased to know jealousy is not going to be much of a problem to you any longer because God is dealing with me about jealousy, said I have to deal with it. So, he started doing more things to get me jealous, and it weren't working. And I realised actually those feelings of jealousy are actually dissolving to my amazement. So then the one day we went to Montego Bay. We actually dropped somebody off at the airport and stopped off in Montego Bay because I needed to go to the bakery. So he went to put some fuel in the car and said he'd meet me back round anyway on a particular road. Anyway, he calls me and said, I've just hit the transport officer. I went, what do you mean? He says, I'll come round quickly, I've just had an accident. And I'm thinking like, what are you doing? So when I go round and I'm looking at the car and trying to look at the other car, where's the other car, basically, and, where's the damage? So there's the transport officer pointing to his leg. I says, what? It wasn't a car that you hit. You actually hit the transport officer. He goes, yeah. And I went, well, how did you manage that? He said, oh, this woman, she was half naked and she was walking down the road and I just couldn't help it. And I was looking at her and I went, are you stupid? Or what? He goes, you're too jealous. And I went, what are you talking about? I said, listen, God's dealt with me about jealousy. I said, you know something? If you see a naked woman or anybody that you want to look at, please do so safely. Stop the car and look for as long as you want to because it's your eyes, not mine. And I says, but this, so the man's there and obviously he's looking money. And I says, I ain't got no money. I says, where's he hurting? He said his legs. And me, I stooped down in the middle of Montego Bay, laid hands on his leg and prayed for him for God's healing. The man was there looking. I said, look, I even said, I'll contact you at a later date, but right about now, I ain't got no money. I talked about, I did promise this man. But then it's like, Denise, I've talked about that in another video, about paying the debts of a narcissist. I thought, no, I ain't giving one bean towards that, because that's what they want to do. They just want to destroy you in every way, shape or form, including sexually. So then I find what starts to happen with me is I'm losing interest in him sexually. So I'm no longer a sexual match for him. In fact, I want to avoid it at all costs. And so what I would do, because he doesn't sleep well at night and he moans about me snoring. You snore too much and you do it on purpose. So I'd say to him, look, you go to bed first. I'll just stay on the settee and when you're asleep, I'll come. No, me want you side of me. You're my wife. So I'm cotched on the edge of the bed, cotched on the edge, because I just don't want this. I don't want the man to touch me. It just reached that point. And he would actually pick it up and say, you're getting distant from me. So I'm losing interest while his sex drive is increasing. And it's like, oh God, it's wife duty. I'm going to have to do it because it's wife duty. But it's like, you have it like 1, 2, 3, 4 times for the night. I need to sleep. I'm more than a sex machine. I said, what's going on? Can't you satisfy? No, me head they hat me eye them. If me not get the sex will help me. I said, nothing's helping you to sleep, nothing at all. So it reached a point whereby I prayed and I said, God, because it was like, he's already had it and he's bothering me for sex again. I said, God, cause it to flop honestly, it went from that to the little finger. It flopped. And then he said, you know if it kill a man vibes. So he'd still be trying. And I said, listen, although the mind is willing, the body ain't ready. It was like his mind wants it, but the body, whatever you want to say, it isn't responding. So that's what it got to. And it became a flop. Oh, I know God answers my prayers. So the one day, he comes into the kitchen and says, now he's talking about the narcissistic nephew, his wife at the time, calls her name and said, this woman called her every dirty name under the sun. Attack say, me the looker. And I went, why would she want to say something like that? Me no know. Me no know what happened to her. And I says, well, you're the one that said if somebody says something, if it no go so, it near go so. So he doesn't know why she would want to accuse him of something like that. Me the looker. Anyway, the next thing, within a short space of time, he comes back in the kitchen and he suddenly remembers, oh, I remember now. I said what? About her, about the wife of the nephew. He said, I did say something to her, I did put question to her, but I was testing her. I said, you liar. I said, he was testing her. What are you testing her for? Because he keeps saying that she's dirty and she's slack. So I just wanted to prove it. I says, prove it to who? So does he know that you put question to her? No, he doesn't know. So who are you proving it to? I says, you're lying. If she'd have said yes, you would have gone for her. You would have had sex with her. I said, but oh dear me, the 22-year-old rejected you. What a shame. I says, but guess what? That's music to my ears, because from henceforth, no more pum-pum from me. Whoa, I said, God, thank you for deliverance. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, his response to that was, if you are me wife and you not give me no P, ending in Y, me I go out there and go lucky. And if me go find somebody, I eat that. I said, do what you have to do, because it looks like it's it anyway. And I think I said it in a previous video. He was trying to straighten the wedding photo on the wall, and it dropped off and broke. And he said, I eat that, no, the marriage done. I said, you said it, not me. Yeah, so basically he had to confess with his mouth about looking his nephew's wife. And because he actually said to her, to the wife, because she's with a narcissist as well, and she was going through hell herself. And the nephew was she would sleep in the other bedroom, and he was taking the door off the hinges so he could get access to her body. So when my ex said to her, because, her husband was looking at, the nephew would be watching or contacting girls, basically. So the nephew would be contacting different women and doing all sorts. So my ex said to her that the nephew's former wife, you don't even know what to say, that he deserves bun. Because if he's doing that, he deserves bun. So in her mind, because she was faithful to him, and then she realised, I don't want to be with him. So she met somebody, but because the ex-mother-in-law, the narcissist's mum, the narcissist nephew's mum, as a Christian, called this man because she asked for his number, because she wants to talk to him, and to let him know that this is a married woman. So when she got talking to him, he was saying that, telling her, that half the time she doesn't want sex with her husband, and he's forcing her. And not just that, her uncle is begging for sex as well. So that's how the sister got to know, and that's why she said, confronted her brother and told him, if she's spreading lies about you, about that, you need to challenge her. So that's why he had to come out and tell me. I tell you, there's nothing hidden that will not be revealed. Nothing at all. Every tongue's going to have to confess. And that's why I just put things out there. In the hope that, and I'm not saying everybody will have to come on YouTube and put their story out there, but there are just some things that we're not going to get away with. So something like that, he couldn't get away with it. I got to know. And I got to know a lot of other things as well. Like, for example, I was watching a video of this woman that her husband was a narcissist, and he gave her a sexually transmitted disease, which she knows she hasn't had sex with anybody other than her husband. But the husband accused her, when he knows full well he was the one that gave her the STD. And he accused her, he just wasn't having it. And that's when she realised how dangerous this man was, and she did end up leaving him. I'm telling you, when I heard that story, this was like after the breakup, I thought, oh my God, that's what he's done to me. On more than one occasion, he's given me sexually transmitted diseases. And at the time, I tell you, I trusted this man foolishly with my whole life. And even at the time when I've got these sores, in your genital area, the sores and discomfort, he would still want sex. And I'm saying, like, I'm in pain and this doesn't feel comfortable. What is, and he said, what he said? He actually confessed it. He said, like, when he was younger, he got some VD or something. And he said these things will they can keep coming back from time to time. And this was what was happening from time to time. I tell you, God is good for healing me, because I didn't get no treatment for it. God is really, really, really good. God is so good. And, what I really want to say to empaths, wake up and smell the coffee. And I'm saying that in the best possible way because of what I've gone through. The red flags are there. They're there, they're glaring. And not only are you harming yourself, but you're harming the narcissist as well. Because as long as you give them the energy that they want, the sexual energy, the jealousy energy, and by the way, jealousy, what God was showing me was that that wasn't jealousy, that was your intuition. You was picking up what was going on, but ignoring it. So this is why on the conscious path, you pick things up. And these experiences are there to give us wisdom, to learn. You know, you can pray for wisdom all you want. You can't be taught it. Life's experiences is what gives you wisdom. It took me a while to learn, and hopefully somebody, even if it's one person, learn from my experiences. That's why I'm putting myself out there. See the red flags, see them for what they are, and just, you know, you're not on this planet for that, you know, to be somebody's sex machine. You know, whether you're male or female, you're not there to give in to the demands or, you know, of a partner, husband, wife, or to be in a toxic relationship. You know, I know somebody that, you know, they'd been married for 20 plus years, and on their anniversary, 20 plus years later, the wedding anniversary, told the husband, I want a divorce. That was the anniversary gift. I want a divorce. You know why they said that? They looked at the mother of the husband and said, in another 30 years, 40 years, that's what I'm going to be like. This woman had totally lost herself. She had no identity because of a bullying husband. He was a bully. And the son was a bully. So she, you know, was I think she'd hit 40 and thought, hell no, I salute her, take me hat off to you. Don't stay in it. You don't need to stay in it. And sometimes it's, the shame of, you think it's shame. I've been married, I'm just going to put up with it. Or the shame of having to go through a divorce. That's life. It's 1 in 2 people. There's no way anybody should be putting up in a marriage with an abusive partner, whether it's emotionally, psychologically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, in whatever way, shape or form. There's nobody that should have to subject themselves to that, you know, to that kind of behaviour. Your body belongs to you. My body's mine. There's nobody going to violate it anymore. No man, no vaccine, no nothing. If I don't give my permission, then it's a no-go area. No. My daughter used to say that, you know, it's a very small word. It's hard for some people to say, but it's not for me. No. And it's better to say no and change your mind to a yes rather than say yes and end up doing something that you don't want to do. Yeah, so when you're in a toxic relationship, I mean, I thought I could change him. I thought kindness, give him everything that he wants, just do what he says, because that's what he used to say. Me and your husband, if you do what me say. You know, just do things for a quiet life. None of it was helping him, and it wasn't helping me. So they don't respond to kindness. They won't change, and God can't change them unless they want to change. And they have to have come to the absolute end of themselves. So, you know, to the narcissists, you're under self-destruction unless you respond to the spark of God that's in you. And, you know, people say God isn't with evil people. God's with everybody because God wants them to turn from their evil ways. God's standing at the door of the hearts and knocking. Hello, let me in. Let me in. Just let me help you. But they're afraid of themselves, afraid of God, afraid to face their demons. But, you know, God is perfect love, and perfect love casts out all fear. And fearing those things, there's a lot of things that I feared, and I do things afraid. And then after a while, fear doesn't have a hold of me again. You know, fear has no control over my life. The world knows most things about me. There's probably not a lot that people don't know. In fact, I don't think there's anything that somebody doesn't know about me. And once it's out there, then what? You can't use that over me anymore. And once it's out, I mean, people forget about it. You forget about it and you just move on. And so, you know, the narcissist tends not to move on. The narcissist wants to keep you in that place with them, and they'll project all their evil onto you. So when he's talking about me, accusing me and telling all the neighbours and telling people back in the UK that I'm with his nephew, even his nephew had to say he's got no respect, even though the nephew did take a chance. He wasn't so brazen to ask for, you know, front, like, you know, when I asked his wife, ex-wife, what did he actually, you know, what did my ex actually say to her? He wanted fresh P-Y. So again, the behaviour of the narcissist could come from some childhood trauma. You know, I don't know. But what I do know is that if they don't face their demons, do it in the secret place with God. You don't have to announce it on YouTube. You can go into your place with God, because the thing is, nothing separates us. That's the reality. No sin, no evil. It doesn't matter how terrible a person has been. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. God is love. God loves everybody. Absolutely everybody. So God's there with open arms. Come to me and, you know, give me permission to help you change. You know, and if everybody did that, you know, or at least stop spreading evil and lies about a person, that's some way to start. Start there, and just get into a place of just being in a relationship, just being connected, connect to God. I mean, I was watching a movie recently, The Dark Crystal, and, you know, in it they were looking for the crystal, and it had to be put, I was falling asleep in it, but the gist of the story was there was kind of a race to get this crystal to a particular place, otherwise evil would overcome the world. But these dark forces that was going against the person who was trying to get the crystal, it's like an animated film. In the end, they needed the light themselves. So we're not going to avoid darkness. It does have its place. And I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. If not for him, for the ex, I mean, he's helped to shape me to be the person who I am today. He's helped me to be fearless then. Him and there's so many other situations in my life. But definitely, I mean, Romans 8:28, I've been quoting it all my Christian life and I quote it now, that God works all things together for good. It doesn't matter how bad a situation is, it all works out for good in the end. So the narcissist, you can change, but you're choosing not to. You know, it's all about your self-importance. Well, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. So just try and change, and nobody can make you change. But then what you'll do is you'll end up pushing good people out of your lives, and empaths or people who are around them don't validate them. And you know, because that's what they want. They want that energy. They want to know that I did the right thing. And don't do it, because it's not helping them. It's not helping you. It's not helping the planet. It's not helping the world. It's just producing more narcissists and that evil behaviour. But anyway, that was my story. That I hope it helps somebody. Yeah, I've come out the other side in terms of relationships, future relationships. Well, I'll tell you what, when I think about my life as a Christian and the struggles that I had, you know, with managing the sexual behaviour, my sexuality, and, you know, giving into it, as a Christian, powerless. Now, it's like I've got no libido. So whether he's helped with that, it's a good thing, because where I'm at, and I live in the moment. So at this moment, I embrace celibacy. I know where my bar's at, and I'm not backing down. I'm not backing down. I'm quite prepared to leave this planet as a single person. Quite prepared. However, I don't know what God's got down the line, so I never say never, and I never write anything off. But I know I've got a bar. And if that match isn't there, then I'm quite happy to continue living a celibate life. Because sexual energy is good. It really is. With the right person, with the right energy. But with the wrong energy, it will zap everything out of you. And now that I haven't got that, like Paul says, I haven't got that to focus on. I haven't got, you know, a husband. I can completely devote my life to God, and that's where I'm at. So anyway, on that note, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, you take care, and yeah, if you can't be good, be careful. All right then, take care. So it's bye for now. Bye.